screencast response to the screencast number 4, setting up a good writing assignment. Basically, this was to lay out the format for how to build a writing assignment as a teacher and the points you need to make sure to cover. Basically, that means that in order to provide a assignment in writing, there needs to be a rubric or at least some sort of list of expectations that the students can follow along and check up on themselves in a way that the teacher will provide in detail beforehand, a way that the teacher will check up on the students throughout the process of writing. And the rubric, especially if you do use a rubric, needs to publish the criteria for success, and a lot of times that includes examples of, say, an A paper or B paper. And another thing about building a writing assignment is that you need to be sure that students are able to understand all aspects that the assignment is looking for. So that includes housekeeping details like font, page length, whatever. Then placing that assignment within the context of what's going on in the class. So rather than just throwing in an assignment so that you have something else to grade your students on, it needs to fit into what's happening in class and be applicable and be sort of a reflection on what has been going on so that students can sort of think about what they have been learning and extend on the topic. Finally, there needs to be a benefit to the students. So in addition to having a relation to the context of the class, you need to relate to the students how this assignment can help them, either to understand the material, to look forward to the future, whatever it is. And finally, there needs to be an operative verb, something beyond write. So whether that be like argue for or compare and contrast or whatever it is. And that should be made explicit from the get-go. So, to build my writing assignment, I'm going to preface this by saying I worked on a habitat restoration crew last year for a full year, and so that's sort of the context that I'm drawing from, and I think that it was a real eye-opener for me, so I think it would be an interesting experiment to try and open that up to students at the high school level before, as part of a study of ecology. So my prompt then would be, imagine that you are building a habitat restoration plan for a buffer zone in an active pasture at a dairy farm. The creek that this buffer zone is going to be built around is a tributary of a major river and is the spawning ground of at least 2 species of salmon. So in this writing assignment, the role of my, I would give my students a role, and that would be the project manager for a specific watershed. So in my job last year, we had 4 project managers for King County, and they each took care of a different watershed or a different region, and they were kind of in charge of all the projects that we worked on, so that's what I'm basing this off of. So then their role would be to be the project manager, and they are submitting sort of a preliminary report / letter to a representative at the Washington Department of Natural Resources to get this plan in the works and on the way to being approved so that they can implement the buffer building plan. So again, the form would be sort of a letter, but it would have to be specifically detailing the plans for how the buffer would be built, including spacing, distance from the creek, types of plants, etc., and why it would be built. And that would have to include the different species that are in there, invasive species that need to be controlled, salmon, people, the cows, how to exclude the cows from the area, and so on. And finally, the topic, as I said, is habitat restoration. So they would have to, this is a beautiful problem because it's an active problem and it's always there, and it's not going away, but the more we work on these sorts of problems in our specific regions, the more we can kind of help develop a solution and be a part of implementing a plan to restore natural places in King County and elsewhere. So, thank you.